The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everybody. Appreciate everybody tuning in today for another NEMSI webinar. Today, we have Mike Torino from Jones and Bartlett's Public Safety Group. Mike's going to be talking about student engagement using different video softwares, different examples of exercises that you can do to promote engagement with your students during this transition to online learning. Just to get us started, I want to go ahead and give you a announcement at the beginning. If you have questions or anything during the presentation, please feel free to submit them in the question box in the GoToWebinar control panel. I'll be moderating, and afterwards we'll have a short Q&A session for Mike about his presentation. Also, if you are interested in receiving your 1 hour of CAPSI approved CEU for today's webinar, there will be a link in the follow-up email that's going out that you can register there, and you'll get an email from NEMSI, and it'll give you instructions for how to get your certificate. So like I said, today we have Mike Torino from Public Safety Group. Thank you for joining us, Mike.
Nate, thank you very much. I appreciate the invite. I'm honored to be here. Thank you to the attendees for taking some time out on this Wednesday to join. And Nate, thanks again for moderating for me. My goal today, I'll give you a little bit of my background, and then we'll talk quick about what I'd like to cover with you guys. I just want to throw it out there. By no means am I an expert in this field. The knowledge that I've gained has come from educators like yourself and providers that have been gracious enough to share their experiences with me. So for that, I'm grateful. I'm retired from the East Haven Fire Department here in East Haven, Connecticut. I spent 20 years with a local 1205 as a fire medic. In my 26th year as a medic, and still love it as much as I did in day one. Was fortunate enough to have some great mentors in EMS education, and had the distinct privilege of spending the better part of 10 years as the EMT and paramedic program coordinator for New Haven Hospital Center for EMS. In that time, I used the Navigate product quite a bit, and had the opportunity to come on board with Public Safety Group to further my career a little bit more. So I've sat where you guys are. I still do some teaching and helping of different programs here in Connecticut, so I understand the position that we're in now. Today, just want to keep it loose and fun. I have our Navigate classroom up in the background just as a backdrop. So if anybody has any questions on it, I'll periodically refer to it and show you some of the things that I've used within that, excuse me, that have helped my students and I. A couple of the points that I just want us to think about are some of the biggest challenges that we've had moving to digital all distance learning at this point. Some of the biggest benefits that have come out of it as well. And then some of the top complaints that you may have heard from your students, or that you're already anticipating could be coming from your students. And starting with student engagement, I think that the biggest thing and the biggest challenge we have with some of our students, not all, because based on their demographics, age ranges, what they're accustomed to at either high school level or college level, some are already better versed than we are possibly at this whole digital distance learning. They've used it if they're doing online education to get their associates or bachelor's, master's, if you will. I know my daughter, they have all online stuff at their school prior to becoming the digital classroom, so they're able to have a little better understanding of it. The biggest problem is keeping them engaged, whether we're sitting in the classroom with them or we're distance at home from them. And it's a greater challenge for us now, but I think with the advent of GoToWebinar, Zoom meetings, WebEx, any of the platforms that are out there that your organization uses, it's a great way to get the material to the students, but I think more importantly, keep them engaged with their classmates and the instructors yourselves. We don't know a lot of times what their background is or where they're coming from. I know that over the course of my time as an instructor and a coordinator, I found a lot of the students tended to lean towards coming to class as an out for whatever they had going on in their lives. They enjoyed the camaraderie of being there with their classmates. They enjoyed being there with the instructors. You know, in some cases, the guidance from the instructors, maybe some of the ribbing and poking from the instructors, that felt more like a home environment to them. So I think that the Zoom meetings, utilizing Zoom, GoTo, or WebEx, like I said, the three that come right to the top of my head, using them as a positive platform to bring everybody together on a camera, to bring all of us, no matter where we are, into a class and being able to see each other, being able to discuss a topic, whether it be a brief general, how you doing, how's things going, or topic at hand. We're covering shock today. We're going to cover cardiology. We're going to do rhythm strips. And then if you take it a step further, we have the ability now within these conference platforms to be able to use breakout rooms like we would in our brick and mortar classroom. So if you have a skills day or a lab day that you're going to present to the students, we can now make it almost like they were in the brick and mortar. We could set up the breakout rooms with the instructors in there, and then the students can rotate through, and we could have multiple cardiology labs going on. We could have patient assessment stuff going on, and we're going to talk a little bit about some opportunities for practical and skill stuff as we carry on. But I think that those meeting platforms are what helps keep the students engaged. They know that they have to be from 9 to 1, from 6 to 10, whatever your program times are. If you keep it the same duration, or you do a bridge shortened version of it, the student has something to look forward to. They're able to see you and their classmates and actually get some material done. And I think that is one of the big things that is going to help going forward. Because as Nate and I were talking before, this was, thrust upon us by this horrible pandemic. But the positive out of this is that we now have something going forward. In Connecticut, I know that we don't get as much snow or horrible winters as some places, but we would have snow days. We would have days that we'd have to make up previously with our programs. Now we don't. Now we know if there's inclement weather and it's enough to cancel the class for the safety of our staff and our students, we can just have them jump on to whatever meeting platform we're using. Whatever instructor was scheduled to present that day can now present the topic from home. So while I think there's school-age children crying across the country that they're not going to have snow days anymore, it's a benefit for us. The engagement of the student also comes into play with whatever learning management system you may be using in conjunction with the meeting platforms. There's multiple companies out there with different versions of an LMS. And again, as you see, we have my classroom that I'd be using for my students up here. And you have to really think about the challenges that you have as the instructor. What could I utilize that is already there, that's already prepackaged for me by the by the company when I purchased the product? Do they have an ebook? Do they have an interactive lecture? Or any abilities for me to build my own SCORM package or my own assignment, quiz, or actual lesson for the students as well? So the integration of your LMS is going to be a big part of it as well. we have to consider how we're going to lay those assignments out so that the students get the most out of it. They have their physical hard copy book in most cases. And then what are we going to mirror and match up on the LMS that's going to take them and keep them engaged through that chapter? Back to the days of just textbooks, we really have no way to track how engaged they are at home, how much they're completing stuff at home. Now, with the advent of all the learning management systems and online classrooms, we could actually see, based on different logs and records that whatever program you're using provides you, we can see their engagement time in an ebook. We can see their engagement time in an interactive lecture, coupled with quizzes that may be embedded into an ebook or an interactive lecture. A quiz that you embed in your own scoring package if you're familiar with building that and you've done it, as well as just regular general quizzes and exams that you're going to build, shows how engaged the student's going to be. You bring that data to the table with one of your meetings, one of your virtual classrooms, and you're tracking how well the student is performing throughout the program. I still believe, and again, this is a personal opinion as an educator, I believe that one of the biggest things that I benefited from was sitting through the NAMC Level 1 course. It was the greatest eye-opener I had as an educator, and it showed me that personally, up to that point, when I was done with that program, I was embarrassed to even say I was an educator. Man, I'm doing this the wrong way. I'm doing it all wrong. And we brought it back. My team and I that went, we brought it back to Yale, and we changed some things, and we saw some positive changes out of that. Even though we were putting a lot more onus on the student to do student-centered learning in the classroom, to do more at home than just read a book, I still felt that it was our responsibility to gear up and make sure that we were directing them the right way. Make sure that they had multiple reminders that, this is the assignment that's coming, this is what you're expected to do, and, make sure that their engagement was at the forefront of our thought process. At the end of the day, I truly believe that both goals that we have for our students, passing our exams and passing National Registry, as well as going out to the street and being a working, competent, thinking provider, I think we could achieve both at the same level, as long as we're prepared, as long as we're engaged, and as long as we have our students' best interest at hand and want to deliver the best programs. I think that we'll be successful with this as far as the engagement piece goes. Having the opportunity to travel with my position now and work with a lot of great educators across the country, I see that our personalities are all the same. We're all driven by the same thing. We want to be the best, the most successful. We want to have the best numbers, and we want to have the best students. So I think going forth in this this new venture moving forward, we're all going to do really well if we keep that in mind. So, Nate, can we open it up and take any questions that we may have right now? Give them a break from listening to my voice.
Yeah, certainly. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to submit them in the question panel. We can take anything you have. If you have questions about the Navigate software, if you have questions about I don't know, exercises you could do, anything at all.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. I'm gonna talk a little more too about some tabletop exercises and skill stuff, but we're open to anything. Like Nate said in the question box, we could field, like, I don't know, Nate, how in the past, but we could field like 5 or 6 live questions too if you want.
Yeah, it's great. Anyone can feel free to submit them. So far, we have a hello from New Jersey.
Hi, New Jersey. Hopefully the weather's better there than it is in Connecticut. It's a little gray.
And actually, specifically addressing that there's going to be snow there, but
Oh, all right. Well, sorry to hear that. A little odd for May 6th, right?
yeah.
Welcome to the tri-state area. All right, cool. As we're trucking, if anything comes in, just interrupt me and we'll rock and roll.
So,
One of the other, go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you. Something came in right there at the buzzer. Does Navigate 2 have the ability to do a video meeting?
So we don't have anything embedded in the program. That's a great question. Thank you. We don't have anything embedded in there that is an actual video meeting opportunity, but we can build a placard. So if you wanted to, in this program paperwork placard, we could add a link to Zoom, to WebEx, to whatever platform you want. So the students can just log into their classroom, open this placard up, and then boom, if this said video link, they could click that and they get taken directly to the classroom, to that video.
Awesome, thanks. And is FizzDAP testing integrated into Navigate?
Yeah, another good question. So we actually own FizzDAP at this point now, a couple of years. So what you see here is the link to our FizzDAP scheduler and skills tracker, which takes them, the students or the instructors, directly to fizdap.net, which is where both scheduler and skills tracker are housed, and the testing and assessment part as well. So yes, it's all integrated into the same product.
Awesome. And the last question we have right now is from upstate New York. What's the consensus on using video chat for lecture? So, with also having their camera on so you can see them interacting and conducting testing over video.
Yeah, great question. So all the instructors that I've been working with, including some locals here in Connecticut, have been leaning towards having their cameras on, being able to see the students, having our camera on as instructors. And I did, for a little asterisk note, I asked Nate what the procedure was normally. I didn't have my hair done today because my clippers decided to take a break. So that's why I went with no camera. I didn't want to scare y'all. But the instructors that I've talked to and that have been working through this find it better to be live with everyone, with the instructor, with the student, so that you're able to actually see what they're doing. They're not able to sneak away to go pet their cat or to play Xbox or doing, whatever else they're doing. And then in addition to that, speaking from my standpoint as a Jones and Bartlett Public Safety Group employee, we've been working with ProctorU to be able to have that ability to proctor a low stake or a high stake exam, so that the student can't, again, slip off for any collaborative efforts, if you will. So I think that has been utilized quite successfully with other programs also.
Awesome, thank you. And do you have any experiences you could share, or any tips for the best way to educate with hands-on skills and simulators?
Great question, and a great segue to the hands-on stuff. This has been the most challenging part of all of it. Didactically, it seems that we could lock that down pretty easily. It's the practical labs and skills that are going to give us the biggest grief. And personally, what I've seen customers do, and what I was discussing with one of the programs that I'm helping out here in Connecticut, is just, we have to think outside of the binding, take our protocols and think outside of it. So offering the breakout rooms in the different meeting platforms has helped us be able to hold one area like we are right now for the main classroom, and then develop 2, 3, 4 other breakout rooms. So it'll follow that traditional, we're going to break up into our squads and we're going to rotate around our lab setting. Now, where we go from there, it just depends on the lab itself. We've seen some of our customers do it where it's a patient assessment lab. So they had the instructors in the virtual breakout rooms acting as the patients, and the students would come in and go ahead and do their patient assessment. They would start out with their, BSI, scene safety, what I'm looking for, what I'm hoping to find, engaging the patient, doing your primary assessment. And then at that point, once you're done with your sample OPQRST, figuring all that out, if it's a call where you have to get into a physical assessment, a trauma call, any call where you're doing, lung sounds, blood pressure, anything like that, what I know some of the programs have been doing of asking the students ahead of time, have a family member there if they're okay with being on camera and being used as a mannequin, quote unquote, teddy bears, stuffed animals, just different items that the students are able to be creative about using on their end. So the instructor is able to see the student apply a blood pressure cuff, apply a tourniquet, if you will, perform an abdominal assessment or lung sounds. Definitely not the traditional method that we're used to, but it's not a traditional time right now. So I know that some programs have been extremely successful with that. It's been unique for the students and fun for them. Whereas, sometimes you would think the students would not, they wouldn't engage well with it. They're actually taking it and just having fun. I know, a couple of the other opportunities we have for skills. If you think about what we've done in the classroom, personally, I used to love having the EMTs and the paramedics run through a tabletop exercise. One of the ones that we used successfully with a lot of the classes was we would do a town hall. So we would do a town hall meeting with them because a lot of the questions we were seeing coming from both EMT and medics were when we would talk about structure and incident command and in town state government structure. Why is it important? I don't care what the police chief does, or why do I need to know what the mayor does, the finance department? How does it play with what I'm doing? If I'm working for a private company, what do I care what billing is doing, or ivory tower, quote unquote, if you will. So what we developed as a team was, let's do a tabletop with them, and we would bring them in. A week out, they would get a briefing in an email attachment about their town, and that's what it was called, their town. There was no town name that they could look up, and they would be given demographics, and they would be given their job title. And their first assignment was to come back and report on their job title, why it's important, what it entails, and what, if any, involvement would it have on street level providers. Then we would have them come to the class day, and again, I used the EF5 out of Joplin, Missouri as a lot of the backdrop for the tabletop, because it was such a catastrophic event and it involved everybody in the town, that it was a really, really great eye opener for the students. And they would be greeted by one of my instructors, who was the governor, and they would sit down and we would start the meeting, and we would talk about just different aspects. They would introduce themselves, and we would just get into a little bit of like budgetary stuff, and then the siren would go off and everything would change. Now weather report would come in, and things would start changing. And at that point in time is when I would shift their roles around. Everybody would pick out of a bucket, they would get a different role, and they would be sent to breakout rooms, and we would communicate via cell phones or via handheld radios. And they would have to respond to, what happened at that specific incident. And at the end, we'd bring them back in for a wrap up and I would send them home, and they would have to do an after action report that they would bring in and get graded on. What I found with that assignment is a lot of them, really it answered a lot of their questions of the whys. Why does this happen this way? Why does this go on? Or why is this important? And that's something that we could take. You could take a tabletop exercise like that and make it come to life on one of these video platforms, probably even better than you can in class. It's just a really neat thing to be able to use this software now. And you think about different agencies, you're doing, a lot of fire departments, police departments, just town councils are meeting on these video platforms now. So you can actually host something like that and make it extremely realistic. Now they can see each other on the cameras and everything, and you could have a PowerPoint running in the background to change the demographic pictures, but that was one of our more successful hands-on skills that I think would be beneficial in the video platform setting, and it would be great to cultivate that and bring it to life with all of your expertise and ideas. I think that could come and just grow to be such an awesome skill for the students, and it covers a lot of different arenas in our jobs. The communication, the understanding of reports, and understanding of the ability to communicate with other parts of the town and everything. Another skill that we did with the students when it was traditional classroom was we like to call it a hands-off assessment. So we would take our students and we would have one instructor with a team of students, and then another instructor, say across the parking lot, or we had a main street that ran adjacent to the building. We would put the second instructor with a mannequin across the street and give it a solid distance. So the student had to actually yell to talk to the other instructor. And we would give them a scenario of you're responding to a local hiking trail. There's a river, and then they got the call because another hiker found a person down, and they were able to get just enough cell service to make the call. But they can't get across the tracks. They went in the wrong way. They can't get across, and now they had to talk to the instructor that was there with the mannequin. But the only caveat to it is that instructor is a civilian. They don't understand medical lingo or terminology. So it forced the student to have to really think about how they're going to speak to a civilian, how they're going to talk to someone who doesn't understand our lingo in the business. And it also gave them not only that opportunity for communication, but it made them think in their head that, well, how am I going to do this assessment? What steps do I have to take? What are they going to feel a pulse first? Do I open the airway? Should I have them listen to, put their ear to their chest? Will that even work? How does this? So it helps them formulate a pattern of assessment in their head when they can't actually physically touch the patient. So I think that's another, it was another exercise that whenever we would do our we call them extrication days. We used it a lot then, when we just had a big day for the students to be able to run along and do different things. On our questionnaires at the end of the day, we would always find that was one of the most liked from the students, because it made them think. It engaged their thought process at a different level. So it employs a lot of that critical thinking that we hope we can instill in the students. So those are just a couple of the ideas that come from what I've done and my personal experiences. And again, in talking to a couple of our customers that I've been working with, they mentioned the same thing with the breakout rooms. They've had, in some cases, because you're able to socially distance your instructors, they've had their instructors actually go into the brick and mortar, set up in a breakout room, and get the camera situated so that the student could see either the high fidelity mannequin, they could see the monitor, and they were able to just run rhythm strips with them and talk about differentials and treatments and everything. So there's a lot of opportunity. I think that the limit is your imagination with it. You know what, and it comes back to the engagement. You know, what part of our minds are now engaged as educators, right? You know, our jobs on a day-to-day basis as an educator, depending on your position, you know, program coordinator, manager, a lot of times you may have the greatest ideas, but you get detracted because of admin stuff. You know, you're locked in the office doing administrative stuff, and you're not out there in the classroom as much as you want to be. But now, being that, yes, you still have admin stuff to take care of, but you don't have 50 students knocking at your door, or your co-coordinators coming in and just, you know, joshing around with different things. And so you have that ability to focus a little more, hopefully, and tap into that creative part of your brain that has helped you as educators up to this point and gotten you to where you feel that you're delivering a great program. You know, that's the biggest hurdle I think we have, folks, is how are we going to go full bore with you know, with the skill stuff. I know that there's other organizations out there that have decided to make modifications to bringing students in and doing hands-on stuff. You know, they have set up you know, specific parking areas and instructors that are checking, you know, temperature, vital signs, a decon area before entering, PPE, donning station, a quick skills assessment just themselves, and a mannequin being recorded, then a doffing station, re-eval of vital signs, and boom, they're gone. And some programs are funded to be able to do that. It's not a small undertaking financially, but there's also a lot of programs out there that can't fund that. So I think that what we're talking about today, the ability to use these video platforms to use your LMS, and the wonderful ability in a creative mind, is what's going to help with these hands-off skills, if you will.
Hey, Mike.
Thanks. Yeah, go ahead, man.
So we have a few, but the first one is requesting if you could talk more about online proctored assessments and exam options online. I know that you touched on it before, but if you have anything else to talk about, or
that is, in again, true transparency. As I said in the beginning, I surely not an expert on a lot of this, if any, but I have yet to personally engage in using the any video proctoring like ProctorU or any of the others that are out there. So I'd be remiss to speak about it as if I did. I do know that in talking with a lot of customers, you know, I can't think of some of the others. So ProctorU just sticks in my head. It's definitely not a, you know, I'm not trying to endorse or anything, but it's one of those things that customers have been very happy with, that they're able to, you know, our system integrates well with it. I believe any of the other LMS systems out there that you may be using have that same compatibility with the companies like PU. And it just, I know that it's been successful for a lot of our customers, where they set it up so that even in for our customers, even in Navigate, they'll be using it and they'll have it set up so that the students are being proctored, just taking a regular quiz or an online you know, a unit exam through Navigate. Now, you know, we are with FISDAP, we have the FISDAP unit exams. They're, in the EMT, they're broken out into 6 categories. I know, registry is 5. We split medical and OB-PEDS, so the students can focus a little bit more on the OB-PEDS section as well, probably one of the most failed sections of Reg. And, just with FISDAP alone, it's a high stake exam, proctored or password protected, excuse me, so that, the students have to have the password to be able to get into that. Now, when we're using that in a traditional brick and mortar classroom, it's great because we have the instructors there watching them. But again, we probably have to go to a PU, proctored website to assist in that now as well. But I wish I had more on that or more experience with it. But unfortunately, I do not.
No, that was great. Thank you. Really appreciate that. We do have some more questions. The next one pertaining to how do you manage tactile skills like IV insertion or ETT?
And that's probably that's an age-old question for going forward, is what do we do with that? We can't send a box of Gelcos to the student's house with an arm. That would get really expensive. We really don't want them sitting at home sticking everybody that walks to their front door either. It'd be like a bloodletting display. So what I in talking to one of the local medic programs prior to coming on, their thought is, trying to set it up so that the students are going in a minimal environment, keeping social distancing at the forefront and health at the forefront. So they're able to monitor them coming in, provide the PPE for the students, and have the students go forth with that intubation mannequin, go forth with that IV mannequin in a setting where there may be, 2 students that are 10 feet apart, even in a room, with an instructor proctoring them from the front. So it's a safe distance event, and they're able to actually do that in a setting back at the brick and mortar. As far as a digital, how would we get them to be able to do that in a full-on, they're at home, we're at home? I honestly don't have an answer for that yet. Again, nobody I've talked to, or even sitting here thinking about it late at night myself, going, how would that be? How would we be effective in being able to check those boxes? And I've yet to come up with that.
No problem. Our next question actually kind of proposes a scenario and is asking for if you have any ideas. So this comes from Ireland, that in Ireland, students need to pass a high stakes regulator exam that involves clinical scenarios with actors that act as patients. And the question is, right now, the only solution is like maybe you could use PPE for both the student and the patient. But do you have any other ideas for potentially how you could do a scenario like this where you would normally have to have a live actor? Would it be maybe something like webcams involving family members or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, great question from Ireland. Thank you. I'm a bagpiper, so Ireland stays dear to my heart. And I think that that's the answer that we've seen come up with so far in discussing it with customers, with each other in the company, is that safely, without having to do the PPE end of it in the brick and mortar, you could achieve it with the webcams, with the video software, and have a family member. Let's face it, we're locked down with our family members, whether we like it or not. We're here, and as long as they're okay with being on camera and we're able to develop the scenario, we could use them to be able to show how to do a primary assessment, how to do your vital signs, your secondary assessment. And the other question comes up, well, how do we get our students to take blood pressures if they don't have a blood pressure cuff? Amazon, they can get a cheap cuff. Hopefully they all have stethoscopes coming in. I know some programs with tuition, the student gets a cuff and a stethoscope. So I would think right now, if I were forced to make the decision for my students in my program, that would be the way that I would follow it.
Awesome. And if anyone else has any more questions, feel free to send them in. I don't know if you want to take any questions on a specific topic, or if you have any scenarios you wanted to walk through, take questions on, anything like that.
I'm wide open. Whatever's best for the attendees, I'm good. I mean, if anybody has any questions on either the tabletop exercise idea or the hands-off assessment, I'm more than willing to field those. Anything on, and again, this is, just say it again, this is not a navigate webinar, but if you have a specific question, I can field a couple of those also. I'm wide open, Nate. Whatever they want.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to send them in. I will say, while we have a moment, I mentioned it at the beginning of the webinar, but if anybody tuned in since then, you will get, once this webinar concludes, you will get a follow-up email that has information for contacting Jones and Bartlett, coming in with, or it'll have information with NEMSI, and also information about getting 1 hour CEU for this webinar. So watch your email for that. We are getting some questions coming through. That we have someone that for their EMT class. One moment, I'll read it. They're video recording and doing a patient assessment with a family member or teddy bear, and then submitting the video to their Dropbox. They'll eventually have to do it in person, but this is just to help them get the foundational concepts.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, that, ultimately, I think that's great, because they're going to have to sit in front of an instructor no matter what. We really have to make sure that when we're cutting them loose to go out there and take care of live patients, they know what's going on. But I think that's an awesome idea. I love it.
Yeah, our next question is about using JBL chapter audiobooks while you're logged into Zoom. Does that ring a bell?
Say that one again, Nate. It's
do you have any for using Jones and Bartlett chapter audiobooks while you're logged into Zoom?
I mean, we have students that do it. I don't think there's an issue with that. They can access that audiobook whether they're online or offline. I know that we could pull our students can pull our audiobooks offline to their iPad, their smartphone. So if they're logged into a Zoom meeting and they're listening along with the audiobook, I guess, my only concern with it would be, if we're a little bit ahead or behind on the time delay with what they're listening to, we just don't want them to fall behind or have it be a disruption to any of the other students that are on in the class, if I understood the question correctly.
I believe so. I'm not 100% sure. We do have another question that does speak to the actual Navigate software. If you were able to show any of the tools or kind of walk through any of the things that you would use within Navigate to help keep students engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a couple of the things that we've been talking about are things that our customers were using before this. They've just found that in this setting, it's become a really huge positive for them is our ebooks and our interactive lectures. So if I use chapter 25 as an example, we hit this little drop down arrow, and what's embedded in the chapter tiles for the students is our ebook. So when we launch this ebook, you'll see that it is just a digital copy of our chapter 25. The same knowledge objectives that are at the front of chapter 25 in the book are here as well. So it speaks to, that theory of having the students see something more than one time so they understand it. Well, this shows them that You're receiving the same material that's in the hard copy book right here in the digital version. So your visual and kinesthetic learners are going to be happy with this because they're able to see it, read it, and click through it. You know, if they have any of the underlined words that they don't understand, they just click on it and it pops up the definition. As they truck through, they'll see diagrams and pictures that they're able to click on that will match the book. So again, just another way to hammer home that their material is the same. Any of the students that like to highlight stuff and you know, dip their book in that highlighter yellow. I'll come back to this sentence in a second, but if they were to just hover at the beginning of the word blood, left click their mouse, and then just hover over this whole sentence, little pop-up comes up where they're able to highlight it in 4 different colors. They can take a written note, a voice note, or hyperlink a video or web page in there. So we'll just make this a nice green sentence there. The previous sentence, excuse me, what you see at the left side of the word perfusion, and over here in a little taskbar is a note from me. So not only can the students make their own notes in the ebook, but we can leave notes wherever we want for the students. In this case, for an example, I just picked a short perfusion video on YouTube. So when the student clicks on this, they just go ahead and click this YouTube link and it'll link them directly to the video. And again, this is just something that I threw in to show, just a cute little 45-second documentation on perfusion. Anytime a student makes an edit like this, it's in their ebook for the duration that they have access to the ebook. 365 days for our EMTs, 2 years for our medics. Right, that can be extended as well if necessary by the instructor or coordinator. Anytime we make an edit like this, we can move it forward into another program. So, you know, the instructors don't have to keep making the edits through there. There's knowledge check questions in the ebook that are sprinkled throughout the chapter that the students can take. They don't report to the instructor's grade book. They're just kind of a resource for the student to track how well they're doing. At the end of the ebook, there is a quiz, and I'm going to close this and I'll show you the external link right here, Ebook Quiz. So this is at the end of every chapter. There are 20 question quizzes. They operate just as a standard exam, so the student can go through and take this quiz. At the end, they get results so they can see where they need to work and brush up. But the important thing is it reports to the grade book. So it reports to the student grade book and the instructor grade book. So you're able to track a grade on how well they performed in that ebook. The interactive lecture is like I like to call it a little interactive click through for the student, where the ebook just speaks to the visual and kinesthetic learner. The interactive lecture adds the auditory component in, so that learner who benefits from listening to stuff has that component in this as well. So as you see, the table of contents, there's 36 click-throughs for chapter 25. So as the student goes through, once again, they're going to see in a third location competencies and knowledge objectives. So it should truly hammer home that they're getting the same material. Just like the ebook, they can click on the same diagram, make it larger. And again, just like the ebook, if the student wanted to take some notes on the A&P of the cardiovascular system, they just hit this little notepad up here in the corner, type their notes in. That note stays on this screen and they're able to move on. If I open the table of contents, you'll see that the students can't jump forward, which is a nice resource for us. We know that they're not going to just jump ahead. There's knowledge check questions in here as well. These questions, just like the ebook, are a resource for our students. They don't report to the grade book. But again, just like the ebook, there's a module quiz at the end. This will report to the grade book for both the student and the instructor. So it's a great way for us to track the Performance in the ebook, performance in the interactive lecture. These are two of the big things that we found a lot of our customers, and let's face it, a lot of times we don't really dive in and peel all the onion layers back of our LMS. So I've known just personally a couple of instructors that are like, wow, we didn't really know all of the capabilities of being able to track where the students were and what they did. This is perfect. It's what we need, and again, this is speaking from our vantage point as requested. I'm sure there's other LMSs that provide it also. A couple of the other things that we have that we think are unique to our program that are nice for our students is when we look at this add an activity or resource bar. This gives a list of things that we could put in the program, and just in the essence of time and being able to answer some more questions. I'll just talk quick about the forums and the lesson package. So the forums is as it says. If anybody's used Blackboard or Canvas, that they have the same similar style forum package. The most popular one of the 5 forums that we have is the Q&A forum, the question and answer. So we're seeing a lot of instructors posting topics up there. The students can link out to watch a video or read an article, and then they would have to come back in and answer, in this case, they would have to answer my questions before they could even see what their classmates have posted. So hopefully the questions, their answers to the questions, are unique. And then we could have them engage with their classmates, 2, 3 different responses. What we've seen and what I've seen personally using it this way is it blows up the topic. There's more discussion because, again, they're not face-to-face in the classroom, so they may feel that little bit of comfort to be able to discuss something if they're not totally comfortable with saying, hey, Nate, I don't agree with that. I think of it this way. So we have seen some fun banter and positive banter back and forth. The lessons module is pretty cool. This again engages our thought process on how to be creative. It's basically like one of those children's character books where you're the character and you're reading the book, and you could choose which direction, which path the character goes down. And based on your choice determines what happens to the character. That's like a 50,000 foot overview of this lesson activity. We could set it up where students dealing with a shock patient and they have to watch a video. And then they have to answer a true and false question on the video. And if they get it wrong, they get kicked back to the video. And they get it right, they move on a positive path. So it's it's kind of like a build as you go interactive stroll through shock, cardiology, whatever you want. So just another resource to be able to bring to them at home from a distance.
Thanks, Mike.
Those are just, yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to throw something else out there too. I have the distinct privilege of having one of my bosses on here listening too, so he's just helping me out with a couple of things. The Proctor U, just speaking from that angle as well. The idea and what happens is they use the cameras and logons. They have different algorithms to see what the person does. So they're using the person's camera to see if they move, if they look down. So if there's any variant or deviant that the system detects an issue on, it red flags it and snaps a picture, which has a time and date stamp on it. And then they report that to you. So that's just one of the big advantages of using a Proctor style thing for the exam. And then the other was just talking about the skills thing. One of our customers out on the West Coast in UCLA, they're using what I had mentioned earlier about they bring an instructor into the facility who's watching from a webcam, so they're not in the room with the student and the mannequin. The student is, they don their PPE, they go in, they do their drill. It's recorded. The instructor's able to talk with them via microphone, and once they're done with it, they have that video and they're able to say, they go out, they do their doffing procedures, a recheck, and then they're gone. So they UCLA has made a lot of their EMT and paramedic program videos available on their website, so that you guys can use that as a supplemental resource also, which is a cool thing. So you're able to jump on their website and pull that for your benefit as well. Thank you, Nate. I just want to make sure I got that in there too.
Yeah, of course, thank you. And also to that point, shameless plug, we have another webinar tomorrow with Katie O'Connor from UCLA speaking on.
There you go.
That's
Katie's awesome.
Perfect drop right there. Yeah, that we're gonna have that tomorrow at 1:30.
I just want everybody to know that wasn't planned, that segment.
Yes. Yeah, no, it was not. We do have one final question if you have a few minutes.
I do, absolutely.
It's referring to, so this individual uses Jones and Bartlett for their EMT classes, and when students go in with the Premier Access code, they notice that there's a section of simulations that they can access. They're curious if there are any additional simulation scenarios that you're aware of that Jones and Bartlett offers.
So great question. I love the simulations. Hopefully their students have been happy with it, and the instructor's been happy with it. I can't speak 100% to saying yes. I know there are additional simulations coming on the horizon. Again, I know that it's something that I've discussed with a couple of my bosses about, ideas, different things. So I can't say 100% yes. Hopefully I'm going to say 100% yes. I know we have a new release of a new LMS coming out soon. So I'm hoping to see some things like that pop up in the near future.
Awesome. So far, if anyone else has any more questions, you can feel free to send them in right here at the last minute. But we are coming right up on an hour. That was almost perfectly timed. And that so far is our last question. I don't know if you have anything else that you wanted to say. Wrapping up.
No, thank you for being an awesome moderator, and thank everybody for hanging in and for the great questions. I'm available if anybody has anything that they need, any questions that they don't want to ask here, or just look me up. I guess I can give out my email here, right? That's
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I can put that in the email, and it'll go out to everybody right after. They can contact you.
Yeah, perfect. That would be great. So Nate will throw my email in there. If you guys have any questions, either surrounding our product or just as coordinator to coordinator or whatever, please feel free to reach out. I'm going to learn from you guys as well, so it's awesome. But thank you for doing what you guys are doing, and stay healthy. Hopefully your families, both professional and personal, are not affected by this god awful thing.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. I really appreciated the presentation, and it's been very informative. Everyone we still have on the line, like we just said, watch your emails. We'll send out contact information for Mike, ways to access Jones and Bartlett and public safety groups materials, and stuff from NEMSI, so that you can get all of NEMSI's webinars, all of the resources that we've been trying to accumulate on our website, trying to help out our educator community as well as we possibly can during this situation. So thanks, Mike, for being here. Really appreciate it. And thank everybody for taking some time to sit through this presentation. Feel free to reach out.
Thanks for
questions.
Appreciate you having me, man. It's an honor to be on. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great day, everyone.
All right. Take care, everyone.